you have to keep in mind, this is a reverend who is known internationally, who has met with every U.S. president since Harry Truman, and yet there's this connection, this personal connection to individuals, just everyday people out there. And it's amazing when you think about that.
It absolutely is. And the funeral, of course, is next week on Friday. President George W. Bush and his wife Laura have a commitment. They can't come on that Friday. But to your point, Brooke, they want to be part of what's going on here and these final days of this ceremony and this the funeral services. And the Bushes are coming here on Monday next week, and that is one of those days of the public viewings there at the Billy Graham Library, which is just actually down the street from NBC Charlotte here off the Billy Graham Parkway. And on your screen, you continue to watch that motorcade leaving the mountains and moving towards the Charlotte area. We'd like to go now live to NBC Charlotte's Rad Berkey, who is at the Billy Graham Library, where there is already activity this morning and will continue to pick up as we go into the afternoon. Rad?
Well, we have just finished a briefing here. We're in the briefing media center here at the Billy Graham Library. That's why we are not outside where the casket will arrive, but that's not going to be until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So much of the briefing this morning dealt with logistical issues about the coming of the motorcade, the funeral next week, and the trip to Washington, D.C. However, the family spokesperson, Mark DeMoss, also talked to us for the first time about how Billy Graham's family is reacting to some of the events that have been occurring, not the least of which is, as you mentioned, the visit of former President George Bush and his wife Laura on Monday. What has happened is that the Bush family had a family obligation on Friday, so that's why they could not come for the funeral, and that is why they are coming on Monday. Mark DeMoss said that the Graham family obviously felt honored to have the Bushes come. It has been a long relationship between George W. Bush and Billy Graham. In fact, George Bush once said, crediting Reverend Graham for turning his life around and making him a much better man. The spokesperson, Mark DeMoss, also talked a little bit about the lying in honor in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, which is coming up on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. He said the Graham family is obviously very, very honored. It is one of the highest honors a civilian can receive. And one final note, someone asked, how do you think Reverend Graham himself would react to all of this? The spokesperson said, look, he was a man of humble beginnings. He might in fact be embarrassed by some of the pomp and circumstance going on here today. But in the end, the spokesperson said, listen, for those of all of us who work with this man, we feel it is more than fitting. Mark and Brooke?
Humble is a word that I've heard used many times. Rad, I know you're there at the library, and this is where once the procession arrives, that's where there's going to be another ceremony. Can you just talk us through about what you're expecting to see there in the coming hours?
What we are expecting around 3 o'clock is that the motorcade, which I'm told has 8 Highway Patrol motorcycle officers and a total of 14 vehicles, including the hearse, will pull into the driveway here roughly around 3 o'clock. At that point, it will circle around the driveway, and if you're familiar with the layout of the library here, it will go to the front door of the library. From there, the pallbearers, made up of Graham grandchildren, will accompany the hearse as it is brought into the library. At that point, the family will go inside. We will not. It is going to be a closed family event as they spend some time with the casket of Billy Graham. At that point, they will come out, and at that point, it's over for today. It is going to be very brief. By 3:15, 3:20, this will be over. Tomorrow, Sunday, pretty much a quiet day. Family time if they want to come. As you said, next Monday is when the public will get their first chance to come here.
Rad Berkey reporting live. We'll check back in with him in just a few minutes.